Alaihi wa alihi wasallam. Man ta'allama fi shababihi kana bi manzilati ar-rasjidi fil hajr wa man ta'allam wa huwa kabirun kana bi manzilati kitabi ila al-wajh al-ma. Salawat. وقال أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب عليه السلام إنما قلب الحدث كالأرض الخالية فيها من شيء قبلته. صلوات. Dear brothers, sisters, youth, Assalamu alaikum. As the time is going, from my salam, the elders are getting less and less because I'm joining that cadre myself. So they are becoming my brothers rather than elders. Salam. Salawat. And today, the topic which I'm going to talk about is actually, I will hope that I can have your attention. The reason being, this is actually a follow-up from some discussions I'm having elsewhere. And today I'm trying to conclude it. And as you know, my background and my interests, that I interact a lot with the youths and with Madaris students and Madaris teachers. And this is a discussion which has come out of the discussions with the youths. And it will be useful for most of us because either we had children who have become youth or have passed that youth and become young men and women, or we have got children who are yet to get there. But the challenges are hitting us more and more. And when I have been speaking to them, something which has struck me, which is actually our diaspora has been in this country for many years. However, the challenges were completely different. And that has been shown by the recent surveys, that the Asian or Muslim community, the risks and the challenges they faced in 70s, they changed dramatically in 90s apparently. I arrived here in this country in mid-90s and I can relate to that. But right now, as my youths will tell me, the pace of the technology is very fast and things are changing overnight. And when they are changing overnight, the challenges are changing overnight. And the pace has taken up so fast that actually it has come to hurt us. Quite often I say we have been sleepwalking, and brothers and sisters, can I say we already have slept-walked into a lot of issues. So today I'm trying to look at this issue with a different angle. When I'm speaking to youth, and my previous students and current students who are sitting here, they know we actually talk to them a lot about your responsibilities. But now I'm actually looking at it the other way around. Have we, as my generation, completed our responsibility towards them? And what are the challenges that we have? Rather than we are telling them to do this, come to Majlis, do namaz, read Quran, without knowing what is it which is inspiring them. Salawat. And that is why I have picked up on these two sayings, one from Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and second from our Amir al-Mu'mineen. Holy Prophet, Man ta'allama fi shababihi. Whoever attains knowledge in the days of youth. So this is from my young friends. Whoever attains knowledge in the days of youth, it is like the imprint which is on a stone. And the one who acquires it in old age, it is like imprint on water. So that actually wears off much quicker. That tells us a lot of responsibility with somebody. Lots of you are in the same boat as I was, or I am. Is actually we are trying to teach our younger students, or younger colleagues and younger brothers and sisters to actually some knowledge. That knowledge will be imprinted on them. So are we careful in imparting the knowledge that we are giving them? Second was the saying from Amir al-Mu'mineen, إنما قلب الحدث الخالي Youth's hearts are like empty earth. Empty earth. Whatever you sow there, it will accept it. And that is what, in other words, it will reflect back on. Again, a very huge challenge for all of us. Are we actually giving them, are we sowing the seeds which are the right one? And where am I going from here? As I said, I need your attention on this with the youths. If you look back at a long time back, again, the man of intellect, Amir Mumnin had already told us, do not teach your children the same way and the same things like you were taught. Because surely they are created for a different generation and different time. And this is amazing for me. Because when Amir al-Mu'minin lived, if you looked at the teaching techniques of at that time, teaching the way they were taught, the group they were actually into, that had not changed for at least a century. If you look at the teaching tools which were used all the way from Amir al-Mu'minin, all the way up to, we can say, 6th Imam's time, it changed a little bit. The way they were taught and the subjects they were divided. And then 8th Imam. But for 100 years, all the way up to 130 after Hijrah, the tools were the same. But Amir al-Mu'minin, the man of intellect, was challenging you and me at that time. You know what? The time will come. When I went to school, I didn't have a laptop or computer or all the gadgets and all the softwares. Now when I am speaking to the youths, they have got access to all that anyway. Do I or my community has the knowledge to actually take that challenge on? This is the question. I'm running very fast a little, but just to give you a bit of background, these are the challenges, teaching tools, what we are using, the challenges our students have nowadays. And let's take them, all these youths, because you and I maybe would have made friends like us, stayed in the same background as we have, but our young friends are making friends which are quite different to us. So their problems could be related a lot to the wider population. In United States of America, in 2016, a body was authorized and commissioned to do a survey on the problems of youth from 16 to 24 years of age. Not demarcating Muslims or Asians, but general population. And they came up with 10 top problems. They were seeing the rise of more than 50% of the normal population from 1990s. See, the challenge has changed even for the wider population. So what are these now? Employment issues, failure of succeeding, and that I can relate to, whose children have been to the school and now applying to the universities. The fear of failure of succeeding in the education. The marker is more than 50% higher than it was only 20 years back. Body image and the branding issues. In 1990s, it was less than 10%. Now we are approaching 60% of the youths coming to us with that problem. And then goes on, and just leaving you with the list. The family breakdown issues, substance abuse, pressure of materialization, affordable housing, negative stereotyping, 24-hour social networking. 24-hour social networking, and I'll touch on that in a second. And the crime within communities. Following that, last year in United Kingdom, they actually did another study like that, which is published only last year now, 2017. And they found that in 1990s, when it was youths from 16 to 24 years old, the psychological issues or disturbances of depression, anxiety, which 1 in 10 is now approaching 1 in 5. And in Asian community they actually, when you get the register and you get the ethnicity, and when they take it, it's 1 in 4. Some of them are unavoidable, but I'm asking you as a community, have we sleptwalk into a problem? 20 years back, we didn't see that. We are seeing it now. And when people like me who are speaking to the youths, we are finding it. Muslims in the UK, same study, tells us the issues are, and this is the interesting part one. Number one, poverty. Now, lots of us who are sitting here thinking why Muslims are poor. And this is the interesting part. British Muslims have got the biggest difference in their own communities. Meaning, we live with 10,000, more than 10,000 millionaires, but if you look at the most poorest of the Muslim area, of the British area, they're also Muslims. So difference has gone huge, and I'm sure you will be able to see that. Education, again, you are high achievers. 53% of the Muslim youths attend universities, which is higher than the national population of 46%. However, again, looking at the pressure, 77% of the Hindu community and 63% of the Sikh community is attending. And our youths, when they compare ourselves there, they feel that pressure. The last one, which has been highlighted by more than 80% of the Muslim population, discrimination and increase in the hate incidents in the universities. In 1990s, 3%, and there are people sitting here who have been to the universities in 90s in UK, 3% of the Muslim students reported a hate incident due to the university admission, 48% now. We have sleepwalked into a problem. Salawat. When I was talking about the social networking, but just one last thing before I move on to our topic of our responsibility. I spoke to actually somebody yesterday only who actually is part of a child line, or which is a helpline where children ring. And now we are talking about the children from 7 to 15 years of age. What they are saying about the Muslim children, that they used to receive 3% of the calls. Now their calls have gone to 20%. Brothers and sisters, we are only about 5% of the population. 20% of the calls made to the child line are by the Muslim children. And what is the common complaint she was telling me? That this is the reason is they come home and they say that they came back from school, they wanted to speak to somebody, there's nobody home. And they're picking up the phone and calling the child line. And these are the things we have to talk about. It hurts. It does hurt. But unless we talked about these things from the member or in our communities, we can talk about all the religious issues. But do we really are aware of the challenges that we have? Where am I going from here? So let's leave this on one side and let me bring you back to the institution like this, a majlis. A majlis of Syed Shuhada. Syed Shuhada, in my opinion, was the biggest practical teacher of all time, who on the day of Ashura taught us within hours how to respect family, how to talk, how to be a leader, how to be a follower, how to create role models. If we are coming to the majalis quite often, are we able to take that back and translate that into our family life and our own social lives? Let me take you to somebody who is much clever than us are, and let's look at the challenges that they received. Salawat. As I said, majalis are the most valuable institution that we have, most effective as well. Only the next week, you will find millions of people on the doors of Syed Shuhada. They'll be walking there, remembering him. We have got that strong affiliation with him. You can't find any more stronger. I was speaking to my senior at my work, and he actually asked me that actually, do you walk barefoot? And he was very interested in that. Because he said to me, his words, do you really love him that much? You guys. We have to take pride into that. But are we, my child can love me all, and I can love my father all. But if I'm not doing what he taught me to do, am I really respecting him? That's the second question I need to ask myself. Let me take you to somebody who was very clever, very intelligent person. Salawat. I'll give you a bit of background of him as well. Many of you would have heard his name, Ayatollah Murtaza Mutahari. Now, many of you will know about him, but let me give for my youths a bit of background about him. To me, he's the most inspirational figure of last century. He was born in 1919 and he was killed in 1979. And I will be on the topic of how was he killed, because that's also important for us to understand. He lived only 60 years of age. In that 60 years, he achieved so much. He wrote 50 books. His most famous work is about this Asul-e-Din. His book on Tawheed, his book on Nabuwa, his book on Ma'ad. The reason they are inspirational, that rather than giving you the aqidah that we have, he talks about it in logic. He actually was the one who came up with the theories of freedom, nature, democracy, financial institutes in Islam. So much so, Ayatollah Khomeini praised him so much that he was made the first head of Majlis-e-Shura of Iran to start the challenges which the Islamic Republic was facing at that time. Unfortunately, he was killed in 1979 after a meeting when he came out. And brothers and sisters, this is also important for us to learn. Do you know who killed him? Within Iran, in Tehran. He was killed by a group of people who called themselves Guruh-e-Furqan. And who were they? They were the Shia extremist elements who lived in Iran. It is relevant to us. And I hope that we can actually relate to that even today. So Mutahari, what he actually writes about the Majlis and what should be our responsibility. Listen to this carefully. And I'm speaking to our youths as well as ourselves. We come to Majalis, we get everything done. But what is he asking for? I will translate. Within ourselves, within our hearts, we need a soul which must inspire us for a purpose. To do a deed, i.e. going to Majlis, we must be convinced towards it. We must have love and commitment towards that deed, a connection. Just to know, and here he's actually, this is what I'm asking you, do we do this? Just to know that deed, and identify with it, it's not enough. Inside, we must call this inspiration. Identify the psychology, the emotion and feelings towards that deed. This is just like that we have completely convinced humans, and this is how it should be like. We must convince ourselves and all the humans in the same way as like sustenance, eating, drinking are a must. Even though if I convince you that eating and drinking and sustenance is useful for you. So whatever is, and all of us who have children will know that. If you put the food in front of the child and say, eat it, because it will help you grow, does it make that child always eat it fully? I can see no. They must love it. And that is when they will eat it better. There's so much work going on to make the nutrition delicious for the children, so the children can achieve it. He is asking us to do that to Majlis. Just by telling our children and youth to come to the Majlis because it will help you spiritually and grow and actually work something, they are very, and I have got lots of youths here, and as I said, most of them are my students. They are very respectful group, and they will come because they love us. Are they taking back that love with them or not? Do they actually know this Majlis loves them back or not? Does this Majlis teaches them enough or not? Only then they will be convinced. Mutahari identified that he was killed in 1979. So even before that he was identifying that. Salawat. So with this background, when I was speaking to the youths and we were talking about, so what is it that you want your Majlis to do when you go to the Majalis, and what will you achieve? And in that came this discussion, which I will reflect on that. What is it which puts you off? And what they said actually takes me to what a famous orator, you must have heard of him, Ali Murtaza Zaidi, was actually talking to us about. And he said he went to Canada to speak in a center. And when he was coming back, he spoke to a youth. He said, well, it was a new center. So he said, do you like this center? He said, yeah, fantastic. It does not feel like a Muslim center. And he said, what do you mean? He said, it was so clean. It was tidy. People were not throwing food away. People arrived on time. And I'm saying that who arrived 15 minutes late here today myself. And this is what he was relating to the youth. That these are something socially more acceptable for him. He is coming to the center, but he is actually almost praising a center when you do not know who is actually praising or actually identifying flaws in us. So when I ask the youths, actually, what is it that you are doing? There are lots of things. Two themes actually came on top. One was the content from the member, and I know I have spoken about it many, many times. But today I'm just going to reflect on it, that why is it happening? The youths are getting frustrated by the fact that they go to a majlis and they are told one lesson and they go to the different one and completely a different hadith is being recited. That took me back on my reflection, talking about which I have spoken again about a lot, is Amir al-Mu'minin Ali ibn Abi Talib. He said something which we have actually got hooked on very nicely, but let's see the context. He said, do not see who is saying it, see what is he saying. Fantastic, isn't it? We must actually do that. But let's look at Amir al-Mu'minin again. Nauzubillah, did he do contradictory to what he was saying? Holy Prophet passes away. In Medina, there is a chaos. There is a person who's called Abu Sufyan, and I wouldn't go into detail. Abu Sufyan, who was historically an enemy of Islam, but from Makkah. He approaches Imam Ali and says, Ali, you are the next inheritor. How come you have got a different caliph? Allow me, by this evening, I will get the soldiers from Makkah who will fill the streets of Medina, and you will have your caliphate. Ali said, what you are saying is right, but I know why you are saying it. So Ali gave us another principle. We must not see who is saying it and see what is he saying it, but very importantly, why is he saying it? Surah Munafiqun, very first ayat is that oh Allah's Prophet, these Munafiqeen comes to you and say you are Allah's Prophet. Of course you are, but they are liars. Because Allah knows the intention of them. So when we actually are listening all of that from Mimbar, we need to actually see people are saying because of their own agenda, and our youths, when they go there, they listen to these majalis and they ask a different question. Question for you, is it a new phenomenon? No, it's not. It has been happening for centuries. Do you want to know how long it has been going on? Salawat. Our fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam, he had a friend called Saad, and Saad asked him, how can be a Shia? And Imam gave him this thing, which makes you understand the problem existed even in Imam's presence. He said, become a Shia, which means you are the point of middle, atadal. You are the center point. And then he actually defines the other people. So that people who are ghali, he says, means exaggerator, they come back to you and be with you. And ta'ali, who are behind you, who are cautious, come to you, speed it up and come to you. Who are these people? These are the people we are seeing nowadays. I have spoken about ghali a lot, so I will just very quickly touch on that. Ghali are the exaggerators who will sit on the member, and this is what the youth say. They go onto the majalis and they completely switch off. It's something very extraordinarily mythological is thrown at them. And they completely switch off at that time. So maybe there was one incident, he said, and they will say to you, how can I trust the person again? If he is telling me hadith, which I know does not fit in a human phenomenon. That's exaggerator. The other part of that is what you call muqassir or ta'ali, are the people who will actually say, no, we need to understand why is it said. They actually will say, if it is not fitting in our aql, then we cannot accept it. We have to reject it. The problem is our aql complete? Will you understand every single hadith nowadays? Very recently, and this discussion we only had actually yesterday in another group, there are emails floating around challenging the history of Karbala, which has come from within Shia school of thought. And the people who are writing it say, can it possibly happen? Can it possibly happen? Can it possibly happen? First of all, the history and traditions are analyzed in a particular way. And unless we know exactly how to read history, it will be very hard to do that. So of course, there are something you are able to reject on very first go. But if it goes any deeper, it needs a particular analysis. And again, my youth will say to us, I'm using my because lots of them are very dearly keep it close to me. When I speak to them, they will say, well, actually, when they are rejecting every single thing, then how will we believe them for every other thing? In fact, brothers and sisters, yesterday, a young lady from not this community, somewhere else, she said to me, I don't even believe Karbala happened. We have brought our students to that place, challenging every single thing. And when I approached her why she's saying it, she actually showed me an article which was published in a newspaper actually about Jesus Christ. That did Jesus Christ actually exist? She said, if the Christians are able to challenge that, why should we not be challenging? Did Imam Hussain really had to go through it? Because in her mind, in her aqal, it is just completely non-understandable how come people could be so brutal to some people. She said to me, it just simply can't happen. And because my aqal is not accepting it, I will not accept Karbala. I don't blame her. Because we have actually confused her. So brothers and sisters, where do we stand? And this is the middle ground. That is why you have got people who are ghali, people who are muqassir, who will actually reject everything. But that is why we need to understand the principle of usul. The usuli Shia school of thought. This is what you and I should be very much holding towards. We believe in principles. And very quickly moving on, what is that then? Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Very nicely actually placed. Somebody said to him, how much actually we have got free will and how much we are actually, have we got free will? So of course we have got free will. He said, so, but you keep on saying that we have to have tawakkul and we have to accept everything. So where is the free will? And Imam said to him, and very quickly I will move on after this, he said, lift one leg. And he lifted one leg. He said, my God, mashallah, you have got free will. Now lift the other leg. He said, I can't. He said, this is where you are dependent. So usul lies in the middle of it. And that is why you need to have religious sciences to define where we are. To reject everything, and this is from youths, they are now getting fed up of it. For us to actually exaggerate to the point that we are actually making our holy personalities to actually tell our children about Imam Hussain and to cry for them. We don't need any exaggeration. What Hussain went through in one day was enough. What Abbas had to go through was enough. What Zainab had to go through nowadays was enough. This usuli method brings us very quickly in the middle of it. And again, coming from Amir al-Mu'mineen, hikmat, some people actually use the word knowledge or ilm, but the word used in the hadith is hikmat, which is more like wisdom. Actually, it's more than wisdom, but that's the closest I can get. Hikmat is a moment's lost property. Wherever he should find, he should get it. In fact, in Mizanul Hikmah, the hadith is quoted, and I was surprised by that, but this hadith is there. He said, even if you find it from a munafiq,
You must get it. Because you have to practice. He's Iran of 70s. He wrote some fantastic books, and one of them, which I'll highly encourage all the youths and everybody to read, is Fatma Hai. Fatma is just Fatma. It's a beautiful book. He writes very small. In fact, it's not a book, it's his lectures. Shariati actually says to us something for youths it becomes more applicable. He said in Karbala, you've got 3 characters. And that surprises us, doesn't it? Because we talk about every one of them. But he puts it so well. Obviously, you can elaborate on that. He says, ask this question. In Karbala, you have got Hussein. That's one character. And then you've got Yazid. And the third character is Umar ibn Saad. Hussein stands for dignity and honor and truth and justice and all of these things. And he does that to a perfection. And he's whiter than white on that day. Yazid stands for everything black. He's the most abhorrible character of all time. So if you look at him, you can. And then he says, I know it's very hard to be Hussein, but I know deep in my heart I can't be Yazid. Because I can identify what's wrong. So I will never go that way. Then he says something interesting. Oh Allah, please don't let me become an Umar ibn Saad. This is so poignant, such beautiful. He said, you know who was Umar ibn Saad? He was born in a noble family. He grew up in Medina of Holy Prophet. He narrated hadith. He actually became so noble that when Ibn Ziyad had to find somebody to fight Hussein, he said, nobody will follow anybody else. But Umar ibn Saad is so noble, if I called him, people will see him as the son of a prophet's companion and they will follow him. So when Umar ibn Saad goes, and in fact in the historical history, what the interesting part is, what you will find, Umar ibn Saad, Yazid was hell-bent to get Hussein's bay'ah, isn't it? And Hussein refused it, of course. There were some others. It is narrated in the history that Umar ibn Saad also refused to pay bay'at. He said, I will do it, but I will not do the bay'at. So Ibn Ziyad, what does he offer him? He offers him, actually, I will offer you this, and most famously, the governorate of Ray, which is Tehran, and that area. Umar ibn Saad turned to him and said, actually, I really am not sure. Can you get somebody else? And he actually posed some names. Ibn Ziyad looked at him and he could see he was leaning towards Ray, but he was just trying to justify to himself. He said, I did not ask you for another name. I asked, are you going to do it? Or if it's not that is not enough, I'll give you more. Umar ibn Saad had a different agenda. He arrived in Karbala, and those of brothers and sisters who have been to Karbala, your guides would have taken you to the place where Umar ibn Saad used to meet Imam Hussein at night. Because he wanted to reach a solution of the matter. Umar ibn Saad did not really want, it's quite clear in the history, he did not want to have a battle. It was now getting to the point, and he actually wrote a letter to Ibn Ziyad to say, we are getting somewhere. That letter arrived on 8th of Muharram. Kufa is not far. Next day, the more armies came under Shimir with the letter from Ibn Ziyad to say, I have not sent you to negotiate with Hussein. I have sent you to kill Hussein. If you are not doing it, step aside, Shimr will do it. Now the governorate of Ray comes to his mind. Now the greed comes to his mind. And he says, he picks up an arrow and shoots at Hussein's tent and says, oh the people of my camp, be the witness. The first arrow was shot by me. Shariati writes, oh Allah, please don't make me an Umar ibn Saad. And this is what is poignant. We all are Husseini. We all love Hussein. We all bring our children here. Every single day. And that's what our youth want to do. Luckily, they are growing up in a country where the values are quite good defined. I grew up in an area where maslihat and whatever you called it, we cut corners. MashaAllah, you and I have the opportunity to bring our children up in the way we can tell them what's truth. What is discrimination? they can go and actually report a hate crime very easily now. Can you do that in all parts of the world? No. So whenever children are growing up with these values, they want to know that the member is doing the same to them. The community is doing the same to them. Their father is actually filing the right tax return every day, every year. They are actually going to and getting the money and everything with the right possible way. They want to know that. And if we don't do that, brothers and sisters, question is for us. Are we following Umar ibn Saad or are we following Hussein? Salawat. Karbala is a message which can tell us everything about leadership and followership and dignity and truth and justice. And let me stop here and just go to our youths. Inshallah, all of you are youth, well, at least young at heart. But let me remind them of something else as well. When your parents have created these majalis and institutes, they have done with such love and passion. Maybe we do not know. Maybe I do not know how to do it properly. Please help us. Talk to us so that we know what to do for you. So that we can do what will help you grow and glow in your own way. My youths, if you look at Quran, I will just quote 2 or 3 things. And this is very interesting for me. Madrasa students have heard it so many times from me. Surah Baqarah, I will just quote part of it. La ta'budunna illallah wa bil walidaini ihsana. Surah Nisa, wa'budullaha wa la tushriku bishay'a wa bil walidaini ihsana. Inam, ila tushriku bishay'a wa bil walidaini ihsana. Every time Allah talks about that do favor and respect and loving of the parents, he actually does soon after when he talks about his own self. Allah puts your parents so high. That is what your parents wanted to do for you. No parent in the world to do bad or evil to their child. And that is why youths, if you read Quran, what is interesting? You will find lots of time, do good to your parents and love your parents and respect your parents. Can anybody find me or remind me of an ayah which says love your children? It never does that. Because Islam is deen of fitra, the nature. And it knows that the moment a little child, a baby is born, you fall in love with them. And all the parents who are sitting here will know that. So Allah does not have to tell us, love your children. But Allah has to tell all of us, love your parents. Your parents have tried their best to get here. But please work with us. Let's not get into this conflict which is now getting bigger and bigger. The stats are telling us, the Muslim survey which you can access on internet, that in UK, the mosques have got either the people more than 50 years of age, and nowadays, and another group which is the women more than 30 years of age. Our youths are not going there as much as they used to. Something is wrong. And this is what our community needs to actually talk to you and you to talk to us, to tell us what should we do. And not just mosques, this majlis as well. When you come to a majlis and you talk about anybody, how does it affect you? Brothers and sisters, I know these are the days when we talk about Sakina and Zainab. And I'm just taking a different route because speaking to them again, I got this message that they want to know more and more about Imam Hussein, the central figure in all of Azadari and all of Shia Islam. And the personality like Hussein, you can never do justice to. Let me remember Imam Hussein from the moment he arrived in Karbala. People always say that Imam Hussein was surrounded by people in the desert of Karbala. I always argue Imam Hussein walked there to show all the world who who was on his side and who was on the other side. Imam Hussain could easily stay in Medina. When he was interrupted, he couldn't go anywhere else. He deliberately walked to the middle of the desert. And he arrived on 2nd of Muharram on the plains of Karbala. His horse stopped. And when Hussein, the central figure for us, he actually asked, what is this place called? Somebody approached him and said, it is called Nineveh. He said, no, it has to be another name. Somebody said, it is Maraya. It's another name, Ghazariya. Another name, Shatul Furat. And then they found an old man who approached him and said, in the olden days, this place was used to be called Karbala. And Hussein got off the horse and she said, this is the place of Karb and Bala for us. This is the place of calamities for us. This is the place where our bodies will be killed, our souls will be taken away, and our women will be imprisoned. Let's put the tents here. The first thing he does on the sands of Karbala, he, knowing that it is an area which doesn't belong to anyone, he still calls the people who lived the nearmost. Banu Asad approached him. And Imam Hussain asked them something simple. How much are you going to give this land to us for? They said, Imam, this land does not even belong to us. He said, I want to pay. And he paid them a lot of money to buy that place. And he said, this is where our camps will be. And then he turned to them and said, do you know why? Can you do a favor to us for this money? When our bodies are killed and we are scattered on the ground, please come here and bury us. And when he has spoken to the men, he turns to the women and he turns to them and says, well, actually, maybe because of the fear of Ibn Ziyad and Yazid, these men cannot come and bury us. Please, when you are going to get some water from the Alqama, please get some sand and throw on our bodies so that we can be buried. And then he calls the children and he says, maybe your parents are so scared of their Ibn Ziyad and Yazid and all the atrocities. Please, when you are playing here, just put some sand and cover our bodies. Just throw a fistful of the sand on our bodies. Days go by. Water was stopped. Then they ran out of water in their own tents. Alatash happened. On the 10th of Muharram, Hussein stood up. Abbas was next to him. Abbas is not looking for a battle. And Hussein turns to him and famously gives him, Abbas, you are now my standard bearer. You will carry the flag of the little army. Days goes by. Slowly, all the companions are killed. Then it comes and Abbas keeps on approaching him and says, Aqa, when is the time when I'm going to go to the fight? And Hussein turns to him and always says the same answer. Abbas, how can you go? You are the flag bearer of my army. The flag cannot fall. There comes a time when Abbas approaches him and says, Aqa, can I go? And Hussein says the same answer. But Abbas, you are the flag bearer of my army. And Abbas turns and says, oh Aqa, forgive me for saying that, but where is the army now? Where is the army left? Abbas is allowed to go out to get some water. Abbas comes back. Abbas's flag comes back, but Abbas doesn't. And there comes a time when Hussein, all alone, in the front of the 30,000 army, raises the voice, Hal min nasiri yansurna. Is there anyone here to help me? Little Ali Asghar comes to him. I will again argue, Ali Asghar was always in the plans of Hussein, but Hussein did not have the heart to tell even Abbas or Zainab that that's what he will be doing in the end. Hussein takes Ali Asghar. Ali Asghar gets killed. Now Hussein gets to his horse, looks to the right and looks to the left, and he does not find anyone who can help him on the back of the horse. Zainab approaches him, gets him on the back of the horse. Horse refuses to move. And Hussein says, I know, oh my horse, you have done a lot of service to me all day today, but today is the time, last time, I'm just taking you with me. Let's walk to the... Horse turns the head down. Hussein looks at the back feet and realizes that little Sakina is actually hanging on to the back feet. In the end, after speaking to Sakina, Hussein leaves. Just imagine one person on the back of the horse approaching 30,000 army with spears, with swords, with arrows, with stones, whatever he is getting, he is actually fighting. And the way he fights, he says to them, have you seen the fight of a person who is old? Have you seen the fight of the person who has been thirsty for 3 days? Have you seen the fight whose brother you have killed, whose children you have killed, and who has come to you? Hussein fights through them, and all the army is so much scattered around him. Hussein stands up in his saddle, looks to the Farat and says, Abbas, have you seen the battle of Hussein? There comes the time when Hussein puts the sword back in his sheath, and leaves himself on the mercy of the arrows and the spears and the stones. And in the end, his arrow comes which hits his forehead. He falls to the ground. And how does he fall to the ground? We say about Abbas that when Abbas was falling, he did not have any hands to stop him from falling. I will ask you, can you think of Hussein as well? When he was falling, he had so many arrows stuck to the body that his hand, even if he wanted to stretch, could not get to the ground. He got held up on the top of the arrows and spears. I will finish by remembering just one sentence. Allama Talib Jawhari says it. And he says that this one sentence is bigger than any masayib you can ever see. When Hussein fell to the ground and he was surrounded by the body, and people were at that time were hitting and kicking and throwing stones at him, Zainab turned up at the Zainabiyya and she said only one sentence. And who is this Zainab? The Zainab who has never not seen her brother for one single day, and she says only one sentence because she cannot recognize Hussein is so unrecognizable. She said, are you really my brother? Ala la'natullah ala qawmi as-salimin. Matam Hussein.
सकीना कहती थी रोकर वतन चलो अम्मा, सकीना कहती थी रोकर वतन चलो अम्मा, सकीना कहती थी रोकर वतन चलो अम्मा, मैं घर से हो गई बेघर वतन चलो अम्मा, सकीना कहती थी रोकर वतन चलो अम्मा, सकीना कहती थी रोकर वतन चलो अम्मा, यहाँ है कौन जो आकर खबर यतीम की ले, यहाँ है कौन जो आकर खबर यतीम की ले, चचा भी अब नहीं सर पर वतन चलो अम्मा, सकीना कहती थी रोकर वतन चलो अम्मा, सकीना कहती थी रोकर वतन चलो अम्मा, हुई जो शाम परिंदे भी घर चले लेकिन, हुई जो शाम